Well, y'all know, so during feast, we like to do a forum. We in service, so we like to do something a little different during the feast, and we like to do a forum. And I like to bring guests in from time to time, and so, but I always like to do something a little bit different. So I want to introduce our guest. He's a great friend of mine, and we met a couple years back. I call him Knowledge, but his real name is Elliot. Why don't you come on up and be my guest this morning? And I set him up yesterday. He didn't know what I was setting him up for. I said, I said, I told him yesterday, I said, you gonna be there tomorrow? And he's like, bro, I've been here every day. I was like, okay. So you can't say I didn't warn you a little bit. You know what I mean? All right, go ahead, take your seats.
But
So as you all can see, he had no idea that he was gonna be our guest. But as I say, nearly every time that we do a forum, I was like, if I tell you what it's going to be about, then the conversation won't be authentic. And so, even though say we've been knowing each other for years, I just like to have authentic conversations. So the way I want to start this morning's conversation, because even though I know you well, and feel free to share as much as you are led to share. I kind of want to start this way. I kind of want to start with your testimony from where you came from and how you came into the faith.
okay, my testimony is typical testimony. I wasn't raised in church. Didn't know anything about church protocol or nothing like that. I was in the streets boy. I went to prison for. I was actually facing 4 life sentences with 150 years on top of that for multiple robbery charges, carjacking charges. I was out of 3 different counties. I had an attempted armed robbery with a firearm in Volusia County, 2 armed robberies with a firearm, a grand theft, an aggravated assault, and a carjacking in Seminole County, and an armed robbery with a carjacking with a mask and an armed carjacking in Orange County. I was facing 4 life sentences that wasn't supposed to get out. 2 months after I got in, I got. I'm not a sports person outside of boxing. I will look at football every now and then and basketball and whatnot. But if anybody been to jail before, prison, sports run the TV inside prison. I'm the type of person I like to have my mind stimulated, so I like to read a lot. And a Methodist preacher came in with some Bible studies one day, and that's pretty much was the start of my journey. Started doing the Bible studies when it kind of provoked me to read the Bible and pay attention to the Bible because I like to be intentional when I'm doing things. And as I was reading, I was like, wait a minute, I can recognize this stuff happening in real life. So that was actually my reason of conversion. I was actually bored and saw the truth in the Word, and from that point forward, surrendered my life and been growing ever since.
So when you first came into the faith, being that you already had like kind of a innate sense of curiosity and innate desire to read, what was it like for you, kind of coming into the faith and like as far as your own progression or whatever have you, like how did things start developing from that realm, because you're coming into something that you're not familiar with, and so now you're reading and it's holding your interest enough to bring you to conversion. And so now, after you reach conversion, like what was the process of your continuation to keep pressing forward?
Just researching and studying, the acknowledging who the Holy Spirit is, or the Ruach Hakodesh is, and the role that He plays in every individual's lives, every believer's lives, and whatnot. I actually had a Latin king. He's the one that actually kind of put me on the path of teaching, and that's how I kind of understood my call as a teacher. He would see me reading throughout the cell, and he was locked up behind. He was like on not PC. It was like he had like a DR, so they kept him behind the gate, and he wasn't able to come out. But he would always call me over and be like, "Yo, I see you out there reading." I need you to go upstairs, read as much as you possibly can, come back downstairs and teach me. And from that point forward, that's what I grew accustomed to doing. Had a strenuous situation with my pops. Me and him didn't see eye to eye until actually I surrendered my life. We were doing a Bible study in the cell, and it came to the point where I had to read, and we all know that scripture where it says if you don't forgive, then you can't be forgiven. And I came to that part of the scripture and stopped. I couldn't continue reading. So I asked the dude, I said, so hold up. So if I don't forgive my pops for all the stuff he did to me, I'm not going to be forgiven? And he said, yeah. And I just broke down crying because I didn't want to do it. But I wanted to be forgiven more than hold on and harbor that resentment towards my pops. And I believe to this day, it's just like a recent revelation that I had of it. It was at that moment that the Most High was moving on the behalf of my relationship with my father, because he became the most supportive person during my incarceration period. He was the one that was fighting for me to get out on bail. He was the one that came up and visited me. He was the one that was pushing me to actually pursue after what the Most High was calling me to do. And then another thing is too, I ain't gonna say I ain't never been to church before. I've been to church. I was chasing chicks. I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? But every time I used to go to church, it would always talk about hell and hell. I'm like, well, why y'all? It's like y'all signaling me out. Every time I come to church, I hear the same message over and over and over again. So that's what's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't like to go. Then two, like I said, I seen a whole bunch of like, I don't want to be offensive.
No, bro. That's why we here. I like to pull the string. Let's go.
Like I said, I wasn't raised in church, so a lot of the antics that I used to see in church used to throw me off. You know what I'm saying? All the backflips and running down and screaming and so on and so forth. And if y'all notice me, I'm real quiet. It take a lot for me to be moved. I'll smile, I'll bust a crack a smile or whatnot, but it takes a lot for me to be moved. I ain't gonna say I ain't never ran, because I actually did it in jail before. I caught a revelation the Most High gave me, and I was running up and down the tier. But it was a genuine thing. A lot of the stuff that I see now is more acting. You know what I'm saying? Even when it comes down to speaking in tongues, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's something that you can learn. That's something that's the Most High placing you through the Spirit and whatnot. So when I hear a lot of people saying the same thing over and over again, I just raise my eyebrow like, I don't know. And that actually kind of served as a motivation to be set apart. To be like, I'm not going to be like these individuals. Not to place judgment on nobody, but I wanted the genuineness of who he was, because that's how I received it. It was genuine. It was authentic. It was raw. It wasn't no acting behind it, and that's what basically was my motivation to continue to study to show myself approval.
Absolutely. I think, and again, steer me another direction if I'm kind of off course here, is that I think it's because you weren't exposed to church culture, that when you learn, like, you know, saying your relationship with the Most High came through your study. And then as you're studying and you find it, like you said earlier, hey, I'm reading and I'm beginning to see, hold on, wait a minute, I'm seeing this in real life. And let me apply, you know, this and see if that works. Because whether we want to admit it or not, when we get saved, we start experimenting.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, again, it's hard to believe in something that doesn't work for you. It's very difficult. You're like, I believe this, let me try it. And this ain't working. Right? And so we understand that the work that we do in the spirit realm is like, okay, I have to apply things mentally, right? I have to apply things spiritually. And it takes some doing to learn how to do that, because, you know, it's natural to kind of go the way of your flesh. And so you fighting against that, but you don't even realize that you're really building that muscle that we've been talking about lately. You're building that muscle because you're fighting against the flesh. Like, okay, I know that. I recognize that this is my flesh that wants to give up. I recognize that this is my flesh that doesn't think this about anything, but there's something on the inside of me until we learn that that's Ruach. There's something on the inside of me that's pulling me this direction, and this direction is just so much more fulfilling than giving out. And so I think that because we're not raised in the culture of church, there was a different path. We don't want to say better, but it was just a different path. that showed you a reality of it. Because in contrast, I was raised in church, right? Baby, raised here. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Like I said the other night, you know what I'm saying? I was born in, I didn't join in, so but I would see things and I'd be looking and sometimes my curiosity, I'd be like, well, what is that? Because, like, there's some things that you can sense the authenticity of it, and there's some things you be like, now, what was that?
Yeah. I feel you on that right there because when I first surrendered my life, I kind of gravitated to what we call the religiosity or the churchy thing because I didn't have no understanding of what church was about. So I kind of looked at different people that I kind of admired to see how to operate and how to maneuver as a believer and things of that nature. And some of the doctrine over the course of the time that I would hear, it wasn't matching up with what I was reading. And that's where the Most High was telling me, yo, don't look at people, just follow my word.
Right.
Continue to stay faithful to my word, and I can care less about how anybody can view me. At the end of the day, I just want to be pleasing. And me and you talk about this all the time. All I want to do at the end of the day is hear well done. At the end of the day, and like I have a lot of family members now that really don't rock with me. I got a lot of family members that are proud of me because they seen where I came from to where I'm at now and whatnot. So, but overall, his view of me is what matters the most. Like that's why I dress the way I dress. I know typically, you know what I'm saying, this is not what we call church attire, but years ago he spoke to me like he was telling me, I don't want you to change who you are. I just want to change your character. That's it. So just as because if some of y'all know, I'm a hip hop artist as well, and I was.
Am I right about it?
Indeed. Indeed. I'm a hip hop artist, and I was going hard for the enemy, not knowing at that time I was going hard for the enemy. I was just doing me at that time, or at least I thought I was doing. But when I surrendered my life, he was showing me like, yeah, that same vigor, that same that you had, I want that same thing for me. Just do it for me and everything. So. But don't change how you speak. Don't change how you communicate with people, how you interact with people, and things of that nature, because it's going to be the authenticity. This is one thing he showed me. He's like the key, the most effective key to an effective witness is to be relatable. And a lot of people feel like they have to kind of morph into this little whatever it is to be relatable to church folk. And I say church folk ain't no different than anybody else. We all go through issues. We all got our problems. We all have our happy moments and our sad moments and whatnot. We are all human at the end of the day. So I'm going to approach everybody the same way I approach everybody. So I don't see no different. I'm going to talk the way I talk. I'm going to be the way I be. Now, if I have to make an adjustment, then so forth, I do that. If it's necessary to do so, I'll always respect, and I got to address you too, bro. He kept talking about over the course of the feast. Yeah, man, he corrected me and this, that, and the third, and I did that on a solo tip. I didn't want him to put the business out there. He letting everybody know, oh, yeah, man, I accept correction and things of that nature. It wasn't for you to tell everybody, but you the boss. So I'm going to let you. I try to do it between me and you know what I'm saying? But that's my thing. I respect authority. You know what I'm saying? And I told him this been like years in the making. I was supposed to be and came up here and fellowship with you guys. It's just life and whatnot. And the conviction finally set in. It was like, yo, you looking for, because it's necessary for us to have assembly. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of the type of individuals, like I said, I wasn't raised in church, but I could recognize the fallacy in a lot of church activities. So it was real hard for me to dedicate myself or plant myself anywhere. But as we grew as brothers and understood that his thinking, because he is one of the few people out of a lot of people that I know that walk this path that actually live this life according to the script. You know what I'm saying? So that was an encouragement for me, and then me and him would go back and forth like 3-4 hours. I'm sorry, Miss Lady Ebony, because I be taking your husband time and whatnot. And now I have to kind of be mindful of it and everything. Be like, hey, man, I know wife you here, and I ain't trying to get killed and whatnot. So, because it's always them small women that know how to fight. So I'm cool on that. I'm trying to keep the peace and whatnot. But yeah, that's basically what it is with me, is just being authentic and doing what the Most High called us to do, regardless of what anybody may say. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with everything, and I try not to be confrontational when it comes down to it. You know what I'm saying? If I can speak to you in a peaceful manner and we can kind of have a resolve, then that's cool. But if we can't, then we just have to agree to disagree. It's not going to shake how I move and whatnot.
I think one of the key things you said in there that, I think it's important for everybody that even though your path was much different, again, raised outside of church culture, not quick to just, seeing things that like, I don't want to really be a part of that. I'm not trying to be judgmental, just saying, it ain't feeling, it ain't going where I'm going with it, but still, and because of the conviction and because of the study and because of, you looking at text, like, okay, I'm sitting over here, I'm a natural reader, which a lot of believers really aren't, right? And so it's like I'm a natural reader. I'm interested in reading. Not only do I want to read, I want to study. And studying in this, I keep seeing the necessity of fellowship, not because somebody from church is telling me I need to go, but I see it in the text. And I think that that's very, very important for people to understand, because some people will be like, somebody that's studied naturally as yourself would be like, well, I don't need church. I'm like, well, what are you reading? Because if you're reading this, it's not about needing, quote unquote, the four walls that folks like to, kind of talk down about. It's about, okay, it's about the assembly. It's about the gathering. It doesn't matter where that gathering is. It's just a point of, hey, we need to make sure that we gather because, again, in conversations that you and I have had, okay, I didn't see it that way. Both of us, like, you might be like, okay, I didn't see that. And then like, oh, I didn't see that. And so I've always said this, is that when we get into study and we get into looking at certain things, if we don't fellowship, what we'll start doing inadvertently is creating a God of our own construct. And so you'll create the God that you want to serve instead of the God that's in the Word. Because it doesn't matter how studied anybody is, you're only going to see your perspective. Until you have a conversation, you're only going to see your perspective. And so when you start having authentic and genuine conversations, what'll happen is you'll start being like, hold on. Because anybody, and this, it doesn't matter what topic it is. Anybody been talking with somebody about something that you both have interest in, and they'll give you their perspective, and even though it's something you're interested in naturally, you gravitate to naturally. Once they start having a conversation with you, be like, hold on, I didn't even see it like that. I didn't see that aspect, and now what happens is your conversation becomes more intricate and more detailed simply because now you're trying to pick their brain, like, how did you see that? Now, I've been interested in this same thing, whatever that thing may be, for a long time, and I just never looked at it like that. So then you start understanding the importance of communications and community and assembly and gathering and, again, picking each other's brain, and then also being able to come into a community where, okay, not that you let your guard down, but now I know I'm amongst people that are trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do. And, no matter how much struggle that a person has, I always have to give credit, for lack of better terminology, to the people that are consistently striving. And so if you see somebody striving, okay, man, it might have took me whatever it took you to get to the place of the gathering, wherever the gathering is, because I don't want to make it about the, sometimes we get wrapped up in church or whatever, hey, but it's like, okay, I don't know why we make it such a bad thing, because it's really not. But, what I'm saying? It's like, okay, now I feel this kind of pull to go there. I went to the gym this morning, and it's funny, bro. This is funny. Mm-hmm. So I went to the gym. Remember I was telling you about the older gentleman that I'll speak to, whatever have you. So he was there this morning again, 2:00 in the morning, working out, and he came in a little bit later because I was almost done when he started. I was walking out. I was like, what? Let me just go holler at him. Right? Let me go just talk to him for a little bit. I got a little time. I was by myself this morning, so I went over there and I started talking to him. Bruh, how me and this dude wound up talking for an hour and a half? And so while we having this conversation,
I think that's you. I I think that's you.
Now, he just said that he be trying to get off the phone.
Nah, yeah, you be trying to steal. Hey, everybody that was here last night, what did he say? I'm going to try to get y'all out of here by 8 o'clock. We had like 15 minutes. What time we got up out of here?
Won't he be having hour and a half services? Don't y'all do that to me. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. But but what happened was, and the interesting thing was, I let him talk most of the time. He was doing most of the talking, and then as he was talking, like a little word would slip out here. He'd be like, "Oh, we be showing discord among the brother," and I say, "Hmm." And then he started talking so we're not just having a conversation. He started saying, "Oh, the race not given to the swift." The Bible say
that's that water.
And I said, and so I told, I said, "Oh, so you got some word in you." And he said that he did the church thing. I ain't trying to preach to you. I said, "Yes, you are, and you should be." And so we just again began having this conversation because I believe, when we talk about witnesses, I didn't, there was something about him. I just wanted to keep having a conversation because he told me something that I interweave in this conversation is this. He gave me this terminology called mental resistance. And so when you're training, when you're doing any kind of weight training, like we was talking about the other night, it's all resistance training, right? And guess what the press is? It's resistance training. And so when you press your way in, you're resisting the urge to not do it, right? When you're tired in the morning, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to, and you can be honest. I don't feel like going to church today. I don't feel like it because your flesh don't. And truth be told, a lot of times it won't, right? But when you press past that, how many people, and this just polling the audience here, how many people have said, and it don't even have to be about church because I want to get the principle down. How many of you ever didn't want to go somewhere, made your way there, and when you were there, you was like, you know what, I'm so glad that I just went ahead and just did it, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you feel crazy because you know that you was fighting even going. Like, I did not, my wife would take me all the time, sometimes I want to do something, she's like, I did not want to go, but I had such a good time, And so when we get past that point of like, I'm tired or I don't feel like it or I don't want to be, and sometimes it's like I don't want to be bothered with people, not even because you don't like the people, it's just like you want to be in your own mental space. And then when you talk with them people, that person, even if you don't talk about whatever it is that you're going through, just having having genuine conversations gives you a sense of relief so that you're not bogged down with it. And I think that that's such an important thing. And because I believe in it so much, it's like, okay, if I start, this ain't the first time I talked to him ever, but this is the longest conversation we had because you was just like, hey, I say, what's up, OG or Motivator? I'll be like, what's up, Motivator? What's up, OG? Or whatever, hey, how you doing, And we'll talk for 2 minutes, and we'll go about our business and do what we do. And today I just had a conversation, but it kind of goes in line with what you're saying. Like, it's relatability in our witnessing. And again, I was looking at it as a witness opportunity. Let me just talk to him. Let me just see where it goes. I'm not finna go over here and be like, oh, you need to go to church. No, let's just see if we have a conversation. And then to come to find out, and he has it in him, and we're having these conversations. And so now we trading these ideas. And I did the same thing to him that I did with y'all. I tried to leave about 2 or 3 times. All right, man, I'm up out of here 20 minutes later. All right, bro, I'm about to be up out of here, man. I got to go. But I think it's important because when we intentionally invest that time, right? When we intentionally invest that time, we're going to get something out of it. And a lot of times, and I say this about New Heights, y'all want to talk about me, y'all know that it'll be time to go. And I won't even be saying something. And then all of a sudden, Erica, since we want to drop names, you know what I'm saying? Since we want to drop, Erica will get that one turn in her seat where she be like, now hold up now. You know what I'm saying? Deborah, don't you be getting either because you're like, Deborah, Erica will turn to the side. Deborah just kind of look at you like, that ain't good enough. Like, I'm trying to ride with you, but but that's what helps us to develop when we get into those things, and then we don't mind the time because anything worthwhile takes a timely investment, anything. And so I think that's very important. So I kind of want to move the conversation this way, in this regard, right? So you've gone through the experience of not being in church culture, kind of coming into the realm of believing, and then kind of saying like, okay, I don't know if assembly is, that's not really cutting it for me because the things I've seen are kind of, drive me away from it. But the word keep pushing me towards that.
Now, I would say this because when I got out, you know what I mean. I went to a few different churches, a few different assemblies. It's just to me, I eat. I like to eat, and if y'all understand what I'm saying, I like to eat and whatnot. So when I hear the same regurgitated word over and over and over and over again, it's kind of like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we here to learn and whatnot? Because it's a whole bunch of different other topics that we can be talking about in the Word that's going to aid us in our journey as we walk on this earth and whatnot. But if we're hearing the same thing over and over again, and then it's like you're trying to pump somebody to jump up and do backflips and things of that nature, it's just, I ain't got time for all that. I'm here to eat. I'm here to learn and whatnot. So and that's the reason why it took me even a little minute for me to come up here and everything. We had to build that rapport, and I seen that spirit in you, man, and the word was in you. And then another thing is, too, a lot of people in position of authority in the church feel like they can't be corrected, or they have it all together and whatnot. So if somebody stepped to them about something, hey, like the situation that happened, hey, like, bruh, hey, I didn't see that. So you need to kind of explain that to me. Most people will get in their feelings about the situation, and then even go to shooting shots in their sermons at somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody can't peep what you talking about. Like, bro, don't let's not take it back to the street now. You know what I'm saying? Like we all.
I don't know if you want them problems.
We all still human now. You know what I'm saying? I respect you, but hey, chill. But and that's my thing too. So like I'm not too big of thinking that just because the Most High has revealed all of this to me, that I cannot be corrected. And matter of fact, I actually invite it because I want to learn. I want to be accurate. I don't care about being good. I want to be accurate in my walk. So when I get before the throne, like I said before, all I want to do is hear, well done.
I always say it like this. I was like, I don't want to be right. I want to be his. And I think a lot of us go into situations that we trying to prove how much we know. And, even somebody as studied as myself, I'm not somebody who, like, again, I say this in every conversation. I even said it to the gentleman I was talking to. I say, every conversation that I have, I look everybody dead in their eyeballs. When I have a conversation with you, I'm coming to collect. No, real talk. If I'm finna sit down and have a conversation with you, I'm coming to collect. I'm trying to pick your brain because there's something that you know that I don't. And I know that going into the conversation. And I want what you got. Now, I'm willing to offer what I have as well, but I'm letting you know right now. So you look like you're trying to get stuff. Yeah, I actually am. I'm trying to figure out what you're thinking because your mind is different. So I can just, even if it's one little bitty aspect that I didn't see, now that's going to open it up, right?
Yeah.
So if we think about life as a puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even if you have the picture, you don't always have the pieces.
I think like this here. I think we don't want to, or we fail to acknowledge that we're not an island. The body is a body of multiple believers and whatnot, and everybody has their own individual thing that the Most High has called them to do. And I feel like I can glean from everybody. Like that was one of my prayers last night when we was doing night of prayer last night, is that the Most High set up this place as like an embassy or one of the many embassies that believers can come into and eat and feel comfortable and be able to express and operate in the goals and the gifts that the Most High called, because it ain't just about you, it ain't just about me, or it's about everybody working collectively as a whole and whatnot. So there's some things that you got in you, and so on and so forth, and me, that we should just pull together like Transformers and do what we need to do. Or wait a minute, this is a, well, no, y'all know about Transformers. I almost went to Power Rangers and whatnot because they used to do the same thing, right?
Go back to the Transformers, bro.
It's trans. Oh, okay.
I can appreciate it. Yeah, but absolutely, you know what I'm saying? It's that come because like what came to mind to me as we have this conversation, we'll read scripture, but then we're not living it out, right? And it says, "Come, let us reason together." How can we reason together if I'm the only one talking? How can we reason to one? How can we reason together if I'm the only one talking? And sometimes when I'm doing it and doing as much interaction, because y'all know here the Heights probably more than any other church you've probably been around. That I'm trying to engage. I'm trying to pick your brain. What do you know? Not to see, you know what I'm saying? What do you know? So one, we know I do it for a baseline. Because we all know this, then we can go here collectively. Now your individual walk, that's when you by yourself. But here as a congregation, we all trying to get somewhere together, right? And so by doing that interaction, hey, what do you know? What have you retained? What are you doing here so we can grow whatever have you? And then, okay, now that, you know, and as we grow, okay, I can situate y'all five over here and not be like, what they doing? Because I already know that you got a good ground basis and stuff like that. So that's what all this is for. But we don't, you know, we don't do that enough or whatever have you a lot of times because, again, sometimes, and I'm not saying this about anybody in particular, but sometimes we know it to be true. It's like that people start building kingdoms, right? So they had a church, and then now all their attention is on them or whatever. Hey, and then they get to doing this, and they don't talk to folks, and they so anointed and holy and all this. You a human being. If I'm around you long enough, I can find something wrong with you.
Yeah, something gonna come out.
You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of times with a lot of these folks that think they so whatever, I was like, oh, I see your problem. Oh, you prideful, boy. Look at that. Look at that pride. Look at it. You know, so it's like I think a lot of people don't like to kind of bring, like, again, it's about, we all human beings. Like, I would hope to God that if I was caught in a stumble or whatever, hey, that somebody would love me enough to tell me, like, hey, man, I know you can do better than that. Mm-hmm. And so, again, the thing with the correction, and the reason why I will pull stuff out there like that is not to, not for any other reason, but to show people, like, look, anybody can be corrected, right? And so even though my train of thought wasn't something wrong and wicked, I didn't say what was accurate, right? And then I had to be like, okay, where did I get that from? Oh, I got it from here. But I'm giving you what I reached for instead of what it meant. And that ain't the right way to go about a thing. You know what I'm saying? So, no, this is what it means. Let's correct it, right? Just like I said this in the past, because now I want to kind of bring it over to the feast and how you got there. So when we first started doing feasts, right, we learned it from somebody introduced it to us, right? And I'm very thankful. Somebody introduced it to us. And with me, when you introduce something to me, I'm be like, all right, thank you. Now let me see. Right? And so I'm digging. And as I keep learning, I'm keep going through stuff. I'm like, well, okay, like we doing this, but why are we doing this and the word don't say that? Or why are we calling it this and the word don't say that? Because we drag culture into it too much. And so like with the feast, we know like there are many, and I'm just saying what I'm saying. It shouldn't be controversial. I know it can be because, you know, the other realm that I can be exposed to because of my position is like sometimes it seems controversial because you're coming against what tradition says. And you're speaking something that, you know what I'm saying, people got it on their flyers. We had it on our flyers. I was telling the story the other day, I did a whole sermon based off the Hebraic New Year, right? Right? And I'm like, I did a whole sermon based off the number that it was. And I'm telling you, as far as like accuracy of what the scripture was, it was on point. But what I built it on was based on this number. Because, you know what I'm saying, I had this, I think it was like the mouthpiece joint. And I was like, you know what I'm saying, I will be, the scripture said, he was, when God was talking to Moses, he said, I will be with your mouth, right? And I was like, hold on, so he's going to be your mouthpiece so that when you speak, you actually speaking what he gives you. And I made a whole thing out here. He's going to be with you in the boardroom. He's going to be with you in this room. I'm going crazy, and I believe it, right? And based on the word, the principle of the word was correct. Where I built it from wasn't. And I can acknowledge that because I'm sitting up here like, hold on, I done studied this whole sermon out based on a year that I can't tell. I done built this whole word. Right? Now, the word was accurate because the word backed up the word, but I know where I built it from, and it's okay. I built the word based on the year I thought it was, and nobody knows when we are. Nobody.
Yeah, true.
So, and it's like, so we doing this, and again, to bring it into the realm of the feast, it's like, it was this time of year, and we know that many people say, like, this is the new year, even Hebraically. You know what the greeting is? La Shana Tova. And people are going to have a happy new year, right? And we going around, and we got 2 new years. We got, no. Where is that in the Bible? Where's Tishri celebrated at the beginning of the year? In the Bible? Find it. It ain't there. And so when God has told us very clearly, okay, Aviv is the first month, right? This will be the beginning of days for you. And so, we had people that came in that had read Enoch. And it was like, well, Enoch has a calendar. Yeah, I'm aware of it. But whatever calendar that Enoch had doesn't matter. Because Enoch was before Moses. True. And when Moses came, God said, this will be the beginning of months for you. And he ain't changed it since. So whatever happened previous to that doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, this in the Bible is very clear. That would be like somebody saying, we still need to sacrifice. Whoa. That was back then, partner. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I told you, I don't think I'd be nobody past if I got to be sitting up here slitting goats and bulls and all that and expect the animals like, look, y'all can have somebody, hey, look, Lord, I don't know if you called me for all that. You know what I'm saying? So, but we got to understand the progression of things. So with all that being said, okay, what kind of pushed you down the path of because like even the way that you speak and how you call the name of Yah, you know what I'm saying? Like what pushed you into the realm of looking into, being able to, because you got to touch Hebrew culture to really understand some of this stuff. So what kind of brought you, to, understanding the Hebraic roots of a thing that kind of pulled you towards, because this is the first time, well, not the first time, but this is one time you've been very, very intentional about, being with us during the feast or whatever. Hey, so what kind of brought you into that interest? What drew you into kind of want to see what that was like?
I think it was over the course of, I could say I can probably start it back in like maybe 2014, 2015, just studying outside of just the typical church thing and whatnot. And I had came across this video, it's called Truth Unedited on YouTube, and it made sense to me. The stuff, like I say, I'll listen to anybody, but I got to compare it where it says in the word and whatnot, and that's what kind of drew me. I was like, hold up, this makes sense, this line up. And that's another thing too, the Most High has been giving me to that understanding of reading things in context. Yes, a lot of times we cherry pick scripture and whatnot and try to apply this to our situation or to a situation and don't look at the full context about the situation. And that's kind of like the birth of where it came from. I was looking at this thing called Truth Unedited on YouTube. And then it kind of moved me to, my first thought was just cutting out the holiday situation. You know what I'm saying? I remember, I believe it's in either Deuteronomy or it might be in Numbers or whatnot, where it's talking about don't you see the nations don't worship me like they worship me. You worship me how I tell you to worship me and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm real big on origin. There's a lot of stuff that we participate in or the world participates in right now, and they do it based on what you were talking about earlier, tradition, but they don't go to the origin of where it came from. And when I start going to the origin of these holidays and things of that nature, that's what made me like, hold up, something ain't right here, boss. So I backed off of that right there, and I told my family, this is something I'm doing. You don't have to do it. I'm going to show you the reason why I'm doing it. If you rock with it, then that's cool. If you don't, then that's on you. But this is what I'm going to do. So I stopped doing certain things and started participating in certain things a whole year before my family did. And then once they figured out, oh, I see what you're talking about, so on and so forth, even though they saw it from a saving standpoint, like, all right, yeah, we don't have to give Christmas gifts to nobody, so I ain't got to worry about buying nothing for nobody and whatnot, and we can pay our rent. I'm like, yeah, it's bigger than that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if that's how you saw it, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then, like I say, interacting with you, having conversations with you, and just digging deep and whatnot. That's what really Oh, and also understanding geographically where everything is taking place in the Bible as well. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us tend to read from a westernized mentality or westernized perspective and whatnot. Like another thing that kind of stood out to me was, I believe, was in Matthew 6, where it says, one day the grass is here, the next day is cut down and thrown in the furnace. And I'm like, what is you talking about? Like thrown in the furnace. So that's what kind of made me engage into understanding or reading more into the geographical, you know what I'm saying, in the backgrounds of these people and whatnot. And understanding that the Most High called these people his people. So let me do my due diligence in figuring out who these people are and what made them so special. And even though they were no different than nobody else, it's just a group of individuals that he chose to pick and make his people and whatnot and use them as an example for the rest of the world, because ultimately it wasn't just about them, it was about saving all mankind and whatnot. He just utilized them as the tool or the catapult.
Seed.
Yeah. The seed, indeed. He used them as the seed to plant truth into the hearts of many for those who believe. So that's what pretty much kind of got me in that aspect. And then also another thing too, when it comes down to the names, because like I said, I do the origin, I research and things of that nature, and I'm like, it's like this. Your name is Joel. Your mama called you Joel, but I'm gonna call you Blackie.
Word, really?
I'm sorry.
We gonna
I'm
go
sorry.
there?
I'm sorry.
Is that what we doing today?
All right. I'm gonna call you Nike Man. I'm sorry.
I'll be Blackie.
My point is this here.
See how they be sneak this in?
Stop playing. Stop
It
playing,
be your
bro.
own friends.
Don't do it, cuz. It was the first thing that popped in my head.
One of y'all call me that, I'm telling you, I'm gonna rebuke you to your face.
So my thing is this here. It was like, all right, if this is your name and I call you Blackie, are you gonna respond to it?
You want me to answer you truthfully?
Yeah, true.
It depends on our relationship.
All right, true. I get you that. I give you that. You don't know me. You
No.
told me your name Joel. You introduced yourself, and I called you. Hey man, yeah, I feel you on Joel, but I think you look like a Blackie, so I'm gonna call you that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what really kind of stood out for me. Like, he's saying this is his name, but I choose to call him what I want to. And he's saying that this is my name, who you should call on forever. I'm not going to substitute that. I'm going to call him what he called himself. And that's what made me go from, because I know I still hear it and things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? And there's no judgment. I know where everybody at. But that's the reason why you will never hear me call him Lord. I will call him Adonai, but I won't call him Lord. And I also will call him by his name. I know we go back and forth with the
Enunciations.
you know what I'm saying, Yahweh, and I call him Yahuwah. The name behind Yahuwah, or the meaning behind it, is I am he who breathes life, and it's also behold the nailed hands, which also brings Yahusha into play, because it says, I will come in the name of my Father. And Yahusha being salvation, and he was the actual one with the nailed hands.
And if you know anything about the breakdown of the Tetragrammaton, that's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Is he with nailed hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the four letters, the YHWH or the YHVH, depending on which way you look at it, but the actual meaning of each letter tells a story about who he is and who he sends.
Yeah, so. Indeed. And so it just, I think it goes to what it talked about in Scripture, where Paul was telling Timothy, study to show yourself approved, a workman who needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. We tend to focus on study to show thyself approved, but we don't go no further than that right there. You know what I'm saying? I want to rightly divide the word of truth. And that's what kind of catapulted me into doing more of the research in the origins of the culture, not only the culture, but the truth. There's a lot of stuff now that we consider sin, or that we call sin traditionally, that is not even sin. So that's another thing too, is just being willing to be set apart. That's what we was called to be, set apart. And that's how I'm going to operate, set apart. So
I think an important thing that you were saying too is not being confrontational about it. If we can have a conversation about it, what I'm not trying to do is, quote unquote, change your belief or change your condition. Let's have a conversation about it, because, you know what I'm saying? Perhaps I could be wrong. Perhaps I was not looking at this the right way, right? So what I try to do, because even me knowing the different ways of Yahuwah, the Yahweh, the Yahweh, and knowing these different ways of how it's enunciated, whatever have you, typically what you'll hear me say is Yah. Because that way we all on the same page.
Everybody on one point.
Right, it's like, hey,
Eliminate all that.
Can we agree on Yah? If we can start right there, then we can work through the rest of the stuff. Are we talking about the same, individual, whatever have you? And I want to kind of key in on what you were saying, because some of us, right? So you were introduced to me by my name, right?
Yeah.
So I'll use somebody that most of us know who Magic Johnson is. That's not his name. That's his nickname. But the world over knows him as Magic. You start asking people what his first name is. Some people can't even tell you. His first name is Irvin. Right? But most people don't know it. See, her face right there. She say, huh? Never heard it. Now she a young one. Now y'all got it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like some people never heard by that name. So like I didn't even know that was his real name because how I was introduced to him. And so sometimes I think that we have to give everyone great, like, and you do, but like to give people grace that that's how I met him. Like I met him as Jesus. I met him as this. I met him as that. Okay, fine. That's how you were introduced to him. Let me tell you what his real name is, and then you got a decision on how you want to navigate that plane. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, that's what I'm saying, depending on the relationship. Because when we were talking about the different names, and we can go into a whole conversation about this, when we talk about the different names of Yah that we call him, right? We call him Nisi, and we call him Inkadeshka, and we call him, you know what I'm saying, Sikkenu, and all of these are altar experiences. Mm-hmm. So all these, or most of them, I won't say all of them, but most of the names that we call him, you know what I'm saying, Jireh, that's an altar experience. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying, Shalom, peace, that's an altar experience. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of righteousness is all these different things that we know him and call him about experiences that the prophets or Moses or, you know what I'm saying, the forefathers were having these experiences with God. And then that became an understanding of him and also what they call him. But the key thing is it always led with what his name was. It was his name and then the experience.
Now, I want to go ahead and put this on record because I don't want to be stoned either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't knock nobody for how, you know what I'm saying? If you call him Jesus, that's cool. That's your relationship with him. I'm speaking for me. This is the reason why I do the things that I do. I am convicted in that aspect. So I'm not saying that I'm right and y'all wrong, or y'all wrong and I'm right. You know what I'm saying? Or vice versa. All I'm saying, in my experience and what I've learned over the course of my life, almost 25 years walking with him, this is the path that he's led me down. And I'm not trying to change nobody's mindset about it. This is just me. Y'all got a wonderful head of this household, and y'all listen and follow him as he follow Yahuwah. Right, yeah. I just want to put that out there. I don't need nobody flattening my tires.
Ain't nobody gonna do all that.
Nothing like that, though.
No, ain't nobody gonna do that. I'm just saying it's just one of the things I think that, and you said it, I just want to make sure that it was, articulated in such a way that, that all of us have to give each other grace, because if you're studying a particular thing and now you bring it to me, and you spent your time studying that out, I got to at least listen to you like, okay, if I only know him as Jesus and you're saying, maybe I never heard of Yahuwah, maybe I never heard of Yahushua, maybe I never heard of Yeshua, I haven't heard of Yeshua. Why y'all, what does this come from? To me, the conversation causes us to be like, hold on, let me, that's why, for me, and I know, like, that's kind of how I'm wound up, that's why I love conversations so much, because we can glean so much. I always refer to, the conversation with the woman at the well. So you have these two cultures, right, having this conversation. So we know that we have Yeshua, and he's talking to this woman at the well. Well, here's the thing. It was odd for a man to just talk to a woman that he doesn't know like that anyway. So he's already breaking cultural norms, right? He's from Judah. She's from the northern tribes. That's breaking cultural norms. And now they're having this conversation, and he get right into the business of be like, hey, the man that you with ain't even yours. Now remember, he doesn't know her. She doesn't know him. So, you could be like, well, if Yeshua talked to me like that, I would have to take it. She don't know that this is Yeshua. This is another man to her at the time, before it pop up in the head like, oh, no, I'm talking to somebody different. So I think that we have to have those conversations and they have to be willing to listen. And from that conversation, then she takes that to the town and then they come to him. And that's why I think that conversations for the sake of growth as a community, for the sake of growth intellectually, spiritually, even physically, right? I keep bringing it back to the gym or whatever. Hey, I be listening to different people, seeing different techniques. That's how we got into a whole conversation on posture the last night. Because I'm sitting here like, why is this going? Well, it's this. But you have to let yourself, you know what I'm saying? You have to let yourself be taught. And the only way that's going to happen is that you have to be vulnerable enough to be like, okay, I have to give this person enough time to see if what they're saying is interesting. And some of us turn stuff off before we even hear it just because we're not used to it. And we got a bad habit of, I don't know that. I ain't never heard it like that. You ain't even gave it an opportunity to see if this could be a better way for you to do it or a different way for you to do it or something that grows what you already know. Yeah. But we don't do that. I was taught this. No, we got to get into it. So I think one of the important things as we grow as believers, that's why I want to start off in that vein, grow up in believers. However your path came about, okay, your path should bring you progressively into a realm of, again, community, right? So if you start outside of the culture of church, it still should bring you to the community of it. If you start in the community of church, you should get out of the culture of church and make sure that you're in the context of what the scripture is saying. Because sometimes even being in the community of church, we know how stuff go, right? You'll get caught up in, everybody else do it. I call it learned behavior. Right? Everybody doing this, so we call it Bojangles around here, right? To make light of it or whatever. Hey, I can't even look at you and say that word. You ain't got no sense. But I was like, so we get into that, and even I was doing a little study on that or whatever. Hey, oh boy, that's another story for another day. I don't even want to go down that pathway. But I'm like, okay, we gotta understand that comes from culture. Or what the hell, and everything culture ain't demonic. That ain't what I'm saying. Everything that's culture is not demonic. But we just got to understand what's the difference between the two. So what I don't want us to do is, and I think he's articulated himself very well in this realm, is I'm not trying to bring my culture or my convictions into the witness as if that's the path to follow. You know what I'm saying? So, because my convictions may look different than yours, and we had the same belief system, right? And I think a very important thing, too, to notice that, Holy Ghost brought it back to my thing, is like, okay, what source am I pulling from? Like you said, origin. My mind went to source. It's like, and you talking about some God, Yah told you to be who you were, just to change your character. So the only way that we can become who he says us to be, right, is that we got to draw on that source. So how radical Paul was didn't change, right? Paul was out there killing so-called Christians because he was very zealous in what he believed. Well, when he had that encounter with Yah on Damascus and he changed his life, his zealousness didn't change. His source did. Right? So God ain't saying for you to be like, I need you to be this person who now performs as holier than thou. Like I've said it many times here, I said, if y'all looking for somebody who's this professional, you ain't in the right church because I ain't that. Right? I might change that to drop of a dime. I might be like to one of my friends who don't know I'm going to set them up. I'll be like, you know what? You're going to be my guest today. What's up?
I felt like you was going to do that to me too, bro. That's why I'm like, because it was odd that you asked me, like, you going to be here tomorrow? I'm like, bro, I'm here. I've been here every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going to be different by tomorrow? And it's the Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I ain't going to be here for. I should have known better, bro. I should have known. It's all good. I'm on point.
Yes, sir. I knew it. No, for real. I always tell this because I did it to Erica one time. I just pulled up. She didn't know either, and she'd been going here for years. Like, my guest today, hey, Erica, come on up here. Let's have a conversation. Because, again, I'm coming to glean, and I think that others can glean from it, too, to see that if we just have conversations with one another and just, again, okay, well, saying, how did you get to this walk of faith? Okay, how did you? Because I might not can relate to somebody who comes from the streets. Right, I'm from the suburbs, so I might not be able to relate to you on that realm, and you might not even want to hear me. Now, when you come into maturity, it doesn't matter where the truth comes from, right? When you mature, your background ain't that important to me. Can you tell me the truth? right? Do you know what you're talking about? Because you know what you're talking about, they don't want to listen. If you don't know what you're talking about, then, you know what I'm saying, that's another story. But, like, I think, like, that relatability as the initial witness is important. So we need people from outside that was on the street and have a story. Because, again, you could go to somebody that was in prison that had this kind of sense, and you could talk to them, and they going to know because even the terminologies that you're using, hey, man, I was running back and forth on this, and they had it behind the gate. All that's going to click. Okay, yeah, he ain't just talking, he ain't just regurgitating something. That's real. And so now I know that, hey, I call it the power of possible. And I think that's what our witness gives us. It gives us a power of possible because we all know that we all have our own struggles, right? And so when you tell me about your struggle, not about that you're going to wallow in it or use it as an excuse to remain in the way that you were, but when you tell me, hey, man, I got to press through this too. Again, I was talking to a gentleman this morning, and I remember one of the first times I talked to him, I said, man, do it ever get easier? And he was like, and I found out he's like 12 years older than me. And he looked at me with a very sober face. He said, no. Now, obviously, he's somebody who's consistent, but I'm like, does it ever get easier? He said, no. So in other words, the challenge to do things, okay, if I want to stay fit physically, is it going to get any easier? No. If I want to stay fit spiritually, is it going to get easier? No. If I want to, if I want to develop this new skill, is it going to get easier? In this regard, right, if you're in the technology field, and even if you're very good at it, you have to constantly learn new things. Constantly, because you can't even keep up half the time. I'm in this, and I'm in the field. I'll be like, okay, I just learned this protocol. Now that junk obsolete. Now we over here. You know what I'm saying? And you got to retrain your mind. Like, okay, we was doing it this way, but now we changing this way. Okay. And you have to do that if you want to remain what we call gainfully employed. And I don't know why we think the spirit realm is any different. It's like once we learn a thing, which is why, again, I can't take stuff like that either, is be sitting there like, okay, man, you done did this same sermon like 7 times in a row now. I'm sitting here, I'm really pressing to try, because I just want to hear the word and everything like that. And I understand, like, I'm saying the scripture says what it says, but okay, you read right through that word, and I don't even think you know what that word means. Like, you just ran through that like that didn't have some weight to it. You just use that word. I use another, I tell myself again, and I call her name out, give a shout out if she watches back. But Pastor Karen was here, and I was preaching, and I told you, but just for the sake of everybody, I was preaching, and I built my sermon off of this word, right? Built the sermon off of this one particular word, and I had all the principles right. I had my witnesses right and everything. And she came to me after service, real calm, and she looked at me like this. She said, which told me that she was paying attention. She said, did you build your whole sermon around this word right here? And I said, chest puffed out. I'm glad you were paying attention. Well, yes, I did. She's like, you know that word isn't there, right? This, hold on, wait a minute. Now, I already thought that I'm a studier. I study the word. But then she showed me another level of study. Now, compared to the original text. So that way you don't get wrapped up. You don't build a whole belief system. Now, again, was it something that was wicked? No. But it wasn't a place to build from. Absolutely not. Does that make sense? And sometimes we want to demonize and make everything, okay, well, this ain't this. Is it wicked? Okay, no, it's not wicked, but is it in error? I don't want to continue in error. Does that make sense? And we ought not want to continue in error. Okay, you learned it that way. Very well, cool. Now, if I show you that it's not biblically sound, do you want to continue in that which ain't biblically sound? Does that make sense? Because when you don't know, then ignorance, right? And God winks at our ignorance. Now, once you know, to him that knoweth and doeth not, to him it is sin. So once you know it and you still doing it, now you can't play the ignorance card. I didn't know no better. No, you know better. You don't want to do better. And I think, again, it's conversations like that. It's being like, bro, I couldn't find what you were saying now. And I'm sitting up here like, okay, well, let me go. And instead of being prideful, let me go back and look at, bro, it don't mean that. How did I get that? Because now I'm trying to figure out how did I go this route. I put this and this and this together. Okay, let me redirect this. This is the meaning. This is how I got, this is what I saw. This is how I arrived at this point. Now, how I arrived at the point that I got to isn't more important than what the definition actually is. So don't let me now lead with what either put together. Let me lead with what it means. Does that make sense? And so if we start leading with foundation, okay, why is it that we observe the feast? Is it legalism?
I don't think so.
Right, so what is it?
I believe dedication is being faithful to what he called you to do, what he called everybody to do. I had no awareness of the feast until I obviously was talking with you and whatnot, and you gave me some goods. And on the information that you provided for me, it caused me to dig a little bit deeper, pay a little bit more attention to the details of the situation and whatnot. And then it wasn't even till, what was that? This week, where you was like, or last week, I think it might have been Yom Kippur, where you had made mention, he was like, well, the feasts aren't a Hebrew feast. It's Yahuwah's feast. So I was like, oh, okay, so that eliminates all that right there. You know what I'm saying? So, and if he's making a commandment, and we know that what he's speaking don't come back void and whatnot, what he said, he meant it, I'm gonna follow it. So when you brought that to my attention, I was like, all right, now it's purposeful for me to come out here now and get everything, or even for the sake of fellowship and then doing what he called me to do. Because like I said, at the end of the day, and then even talking about the tabernacles, you know what I'm saying? What we was talking about in Zechariah 14 and seeing that Sukkot is going to be something that is commanded.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
In the millennial reign.
In the millennial reign and whatnot. And if you don't participate in that, then what's going to happen to you and things of that nature. So it just shows the importance of keeping these things and actually doing this as a foreshadow unto him until he gets here and whatnot. So, like I said, at the end of the day, I just want to hear,
well done.
Well done. That's it.
That's it. All right, I kind of want to open up the floor just real quickly. If anybody had like a comment or whatever had you or a question before we close this thing out. But did y'all enjoy this little conversation that we had? Again, I think it's important for us to come together and to have these conversations. And a lot of time, our audience online, we get to have this kind of conversation because it's between two people. But I actually like to do this off camera. And what we did, Can We Talk? The other night, we just had a conversation here. I'm going to give us a scripture that this conversation comes out of. And the conversation went somewhere else. But even in that conversation going to a different route, now we got to be like, we went from, talking about, sewing and things like that to meditation. And then when we broke out what the meaning of meditation was and things like that, okay, I never saw it in this dynamic, so I just learned something. So even though I've come, I've read scriptures about meditation before, I never saw it in that vein, and that, now I know which way to turn, and everybody that was here that night knows the depth of that. Now I know which way to turn. Okay, it wasn't working the way it should have been working simply because I wasn't turned in the right direction. And so I think it's very important for us to continue to have conversations as we can. But one thing that I want to make sure is very important, that when you have these type of conversations, that you know who you're talking to. So I know I'm talking to another epistle. Does that make sense? So like when I'm having spiritual conversations, I need to be talking to another epistle. Now I can have a conversation with anybody, but when I'm trying to build myself, right? I'm trying to make sure that we build each other. I'm here to collect. So let me have this conversation with somebody who has knowledge or who has a general interest, or at least is going to be open enough to be honest about what they know and don't know. None of us know it all. None of us will. But we can all learn more if we would just take the time with each other and get past our own stuff. I know sometimes being in different environments, it takes some getting used to, but it's doable and it's beneficial once you utilize discernment and wisdom to navigate which place that you're gonna frequent, so to speak. So, anybody, anything? Go ahead. Hold on, wait one moment.
So, Brother Elliot, you said that you had found some things that you originally thought was considered sin, and then you found out that they were not. Can you give some examples?
So like what I meant by that is there are things that I noticed that people call sin. So like drinking. People think drinking is sinful and whatnot, and I heard that coming up even before I even associated myself with church or whatnot, or the assembly and whatnot. But as I read, and even we just got done talking about this not too long ago about Yahusha. You know what I mean? He came eating and drinking. But drinking is one of the major sins that the church say is not allowable for us to do. I'm not encouraging nobody. Listen to me. If we on the camera, I'm not encouraging nobody to drink. I'm just saying it's not a sin. It's not considered a sin. So I believe that the Most High has written out what he considers sin. And tradition adds on to it because it don't look like right now I could be considered sin because I got the hat on but fortunately I'm in a happy place. You know what I'm saying? So but I done been in places, churches where they say, hey man, you can take your hat off. And I respect it, you know what I'm saying, like that, but because it's their tradition, they will damn you like it's a sin. And that's what I meant by that right there.
So to kind of make sure we fill that out a little bit, right? And so even with the thing like the hat or whatever have you, now if we were trying to be more culturally close to the Hebraic realm, all the men in here would have on the mitre. You know what I'm saying? You would have on your mitre. You would have on a hat. You would have something on your head. And so what that came from is military. Not having a cover on inside. So it's a military culture. It's not a church thing. So somebody bled their military experience over into church, and then now that became like if you got on a hat, you're sinful. Same thing with the pants, right? Oh, that's men attire. Do you know the origin of pants? They were not made for men at first, okay? If we're gonna know the origin of a thing. That makes sense? And so we create these things, and then it becomes the truth when it's not. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a thing that becomes a line. And just to make sure that we are very, very clear about the drinking thing or whatever have you, a lot of people be like, oh, see, I knew it was something to that. I knew it was something to that. Okay, fine. You don't want to drink, right? But I bet you can't stop eating. You want to talk about the person that's intoxicated with the wine and you intoxicated with sugar. You intoxicated with salt. You wonder why your family got heart conditions and you can't stop frying stuff. I'm just trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? You got all these super holy folks and I'm just talking about what I'm talking about. You super holy and super heavy. You know what I'm saying? So I walk heavy. Yeah, you walk heavy, bro. Of course you walk in heavy. You know what I mean? Like let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a bean, man. You know what I mean? You can't put down your fork. He can't put down the bottle. Who is gluttony? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Look, you can abuse anything. You can abuse anything. We abuse each other.
True.
Right?
True.
We abuse each other. We got used to each other. A lot of folk don't want to deal with church because of how church people treat them.
Yep.
Like y'all judgmental, as if you, again, because you're able to hide. I'm gonna just talk about it in general. I don't thinking about a single person, right? Just because you're able to hide your sin well doesn't mean that you ain't doing it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of folks who you think got it together behind closed doors, I like, what's his name? I think it's Dewey. I might be saying this name wrong. E. Dewey Smith. And he was talking about how he had went through a lot of losses. And he said, you know the only thing that was getting me through? He said straight to the camera. He said Patron, the silver kind. Right? And a lot of people would be like, see, I ain't nothing knowing to you. You ain't never been through nothing that pushed you to the edge.
Yeah.
Right? Now, he's not saying, hey, when you go through something, this is what you should go through. This is what I went through. God brought me out of that. I got through the situation. I didn't get through it maybe the way that you did. Right? Some of us, when we go through a thing, and I don't want to drop into another conversation, but like we'll go through something, and again, you'll start treating people crazy. You'll start talking to them all nasty because you hurting. You know the thing. Hurt people hurt people. Yeah, you don't think that you was abusive, but you got an excuse because you know I was grieving. He was grieving. He just grieved differently. Yeah. That's why you know what I'm saying. You True. instead of being judgmental, why don't you know what I'm saying? Like you who are mature, restore such a one. In the spirit of meekness. But you immature, so you ain't in the restoration, you in the ridicule.
Indeed.
You know, and I think we ridicule real well. We rebuke really well. We got that on lock. We can get down on you easy instead of trying to build you up. Because building, like, okay, trying to get this last example. How many of y'all ever seen an older building get knocked down? Right, an older building get knocked down. And I'm talking about a pretty decent sized building, right? So they knocked the building down in about a week or two, maybe a month or two. It's like the building was not even there. You know what I mean? Now, let's just say that they try to rebuild on that same site. Doesn't it take like 4 to 5 to 6 to 10 times longer to rebuild it? So what I'm saying, the principle I'm laying, it's real easy to knock somebody down. That's easy. It's easy sitting in that wrecking ball and be like, let me just tell you down. What takes more time, what takes more skill, what takes more dedication, what takes more work is actually building somebody up. And we don't do that well enough in the faith community. It's going to take time to build people up that have been torn down.
Indeed.
Does that make sense?
And another thing is I don't think that people take into consideration Matthew 7, the first two verses. Judge not lest you be judged, because the judgment that you use against somebody is going to be used against you in the same measure that you use it. So if you actually pay attention to that script and understanding what judgment is, too.
I like the text that says, and so some were you. It lists a whole bunch of stuff. It said, and so were some of you. Don't forget that you've been washed. Don't forget that, like, I'm saying that you didn't get here because you were clean. You know what I mean? So I don't care. I've been walking with God for 20 years and I ain't. Okay, fine. Let's just say that that's so. What happened to before them 20 years? No, tell me. Now, as holy as you are, you can tell me about all your holiness. Tell me about when you was raggedy. So now that you done told me about a raggedy, I wonder, am I going to look at you the same way that I looked at you before I found out that you was raggedy? Huh? Because when people can present themselves, because, you know what I'm saying, I am without flaw. That's why I told y'all a bajillion times, look, you are not looking at a flawless individual. I got problems. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm in yet need of a physician. Some of y'all like, I know you had problems, bro. That's why I be praying for you for real. But be quiet. Hey, be quiet. Calm down. Don't get carried away.
That's right.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like giving each other that grace. But, man, let me go ahead and close this out and say this. First of all, thank you for your testimony.
Appreciate you.
Also, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Because I just believe that's why, and I'm glad that you just dove right into it and just started talking about it and your path. So again, it shows people there's multiple ways in which we come to the Father. But once we come to the Father, then it becomes very, very straight line. Once you start getting to Him, it ain't all this veering off to the left and to the right. It's like, and I'm not saying being perfect or whatever. Hey, it's like, okay, I know the path. If I veer off to the left or right, I know I got to come back to the path, because the path ain't gonna change. That makes sense. So all roads do lead to Him, and the deeper you get down there, the less you're gonna veer off. You're still gonna veer off. And we're not excusing that. We're just saying, okay, when you do, hey, the path's over here. The path ain't gonna change. The path is over here. You struggling? I get it. You grieving? I get it. Okay, let's help you. Right? Let me hold you while sitting up here like the path is still over here. Right? And I hope that in a situation that happened to me or whatever happened, that somebody would love me enough to be like, hey, man, you of course. I actually gave him an assignment years ago, and they came from a movie, to be honest with you, but from Gladiator, and they said that, what's his name, the dude that walked behind Marcus?
Maximus?
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius was his name, and they said, you're only a man. You know what I'm saying? And he had somebody actually tell him that to remind him, because he's at this stature, you're only a man. And so it's like, hey, man, don't get so caught up in the thing that you forget, hey, you only a man now. Just, don't get too carried away. Okay, I know you've been walking and you ain't been stumbling as much as the next man, but we're not competing with each other.
Exactly. My thing is, I'm going to let you finish off, is I always pose this question. The person say they love you. They see you about to run your head into a wall. And they let you do it, can they say they really love you?
Hey, I say it like this, I be like this here, hey, if that's what love look like to you, we ain't speaking the same language. If you gonna let me hurt myself, no, that ain't love. Because if you gotta scream at me to keep me from going out in the street and getting ran over, then please, use, you know what I'm saying? Go back to New York and just get nasty with it, you know what I'm saying? That was for my friend. just get nasty. Hey, look, get out the street, Marcus. Hey, for those of you in the audience, I can do that because I have a real relationship with these people. We ain't calling them out of nowhere. We have real relationships over here. All right. You know, now, if your church ain't like that, don't try this at home. Anywho, but again, can we just give a hand clap of praise for the experience and